done this reorganization in the past.
Well, the past really doesn't exist. We're looking today and forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Thank you.
Mr. Petronis recognized for 5 minutes. Question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon.
Hello?
Commissioner, I'm sitting there, I'm reading your resume, and you've seen a lot of activities over your time at the commission. Thank you for your service to our nation.
Thank you very much.
I guess where I kind of get some anxiety is thinking about how dynamic the situation is. Kind of a tough place to be, as much as I would like to see as much stateside manufacturing, we're definitely, there's going to be those dependencies we have on goods coming in. And I can't imagine the dynamics of what happened, at least with y'all's concerns during COVID, supply chain disruptions, and as you looked at where we're trying to at least onboard predictability. And then I'm looking, as I'm thinking about things like the games that might be played by those other countries and their importance of getting into the U.S. market. Do you see, have you seen, or if you wouldn't mind elaborating, I'd love to understand, even if you want to, I'll learn by stories. If you've got an instance of what you had seen between the United States and China where they have done unfair practices, maybe leverage, or maybe even saw anything during COVID, enlighten me. This is an opportunity for me to learn.
Well, thank you. We have now, we've added a couple of the controlled carriers, owned or subsidized by foreign countries. Mm-hmm. 5 of the 6 are Chinese. We're a competition agency primarily. And so we're looking to make sure to continually look at their price structure, mm-hmm. to make sure that if there are subsidies, then they aren't used to below price, mm-hmm. to the detriment of the other carriers that are not owned or controlled by foreign countries. And we'll be watching even more carefully in, I think, October, when the trade rep charges begin, that doesn't cause the control carriers to make some decisions or some pricing decisions that we think are a problem.
So did you say that 5 of the 6 control carriers are subsidized by China?
5 of the 6 are controlled.
Wow.
Owned or controlled.
And I'm assuming, one, they probably want that type of influence in order to continue their goods getting out of market. But that also gets me super concerned of what type of dependence we've got when they've got that much control over the products that we depend upon.
Well, there are plenty of carriers.
Okay.
We watch each of them. We don't have authority over actual mergers. We watch other combinations among the carriers. And unlike a merger, we watch them all the time. Continuous.
As of other countries have an influence over ownership over carriers of this nature, who's number 2, who's number 3? Which other countries?
Really, we have one other one that is Korean.
Okay.
And those are the only ones to date. It's been different in the past.
Sure. And so with no control over the mergers, are any of the carriers that China has influence over, were those acquired through acquisitions?
OOCL was the Hong Kong company, was acquired.
Sure. Well, again, thank you for your service. Appreciate your answers and your time being here today.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I yield.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Mr. Shelton for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chair Ezell and Ranking Member Carbajal, and welcome. Commissioner Dye, we appreciate you being here. So the FMC's responsibility of protecting the U.S. shipping industry from foreign governments' unfair practices is particularly important to the Great Lakes region, where I hail from Michigan. A $36 billion a year industry that creates good paying jobs and keeps our nation's supply chains moving. When visiting the ports of Muskegon and Grand Haven in my district, the constituents frequently stress the need for strong but navigable ballast water regulations. It has had a huge impact on our waterways. So Commissioner Dye, I understand that the FMC has investigated how Canada's ballast water regulations have impacted U.S. Lakers. FMC's actions have resulted in the Canadian government providing limited relief for American shippers. Can you talk us through specifically how you plan to stay on top of that issue, especially as we're continuing to see some pretty significant rollbacks on regulations around water protection across the board?
Of course, and we'll be following the Canadian response to ensure that it's effective as we expect it to be. But no, this is not over if that approach is not effective.
Yeah.
But we've been very pleased.
Okay. Well, appreciate continued engagement on, what you and your administration will continue to do going forward. We think this is a important issue to stay on top of, not just simply a one and done response. I have a couple questions, so I want to keep moving on. But while I don't always see eye to eye with the current administration, I am very pleased to see the president focused on bolstering our maritime industry. That is one area we do agree on. I'm willing to collaborate with the FMC to actualize this goal. Again, the industry very important to the Great Lakes. This starts with appropriately reviewing and responding to complaints through the FMC's formal process. However, I'm concerned with 2 FMC commissioner vacancies, recent staff cuts to the tune of 20%, and flat funding requests. I'm concerned that we aren't doing everything we can to make good under obligations under the Ocean Shipping Reform Act of 2022, something you, of course, had a big hand in getting through initially. Can you speak to how the FMC has internally reorganized, if at all, to ensure that flat funding and reduced staff will not hinder its ability to appropriately respond to and review the complaints that are filed?
I appreciate it. Thank you. You can be sure that the FMC is functioning. We have, under existing law, we still have a quorum. My general counsel tells me, and so I don't think anyone should be concerned that the FMC is not on the job.
I think what this committee is looking for, though, is more than just a functioning FMC, one that can make sure a robust response to these complaints when they're received. Once we have an invasive species entering our waterways, it's very hard to turn back the clock. So simply showing up for quorum, respectfully, may not be enough at this point, and the concern with significantly reduced staffing does raise alarms about whether or not you're able to respond in an appropriate fashion. And I will say, simply showing up for quorum doesn't seem, to get to the heart of having enough, enough people there. I have one more question I'll go to, and if you have a more robust response, we would love to take one for the record because it is of concern. Continuing on there, the president's budget request of $40 million for the FMC, the same enacted amount as fiscal year 2025, and 20% less than the previous budget request. It reduces the workload significantly. Assuming Congress flat funds the FMC as the president has requested, how else can this committee continue to support the FMC's efforts to reduce port congestion, boost transparency in the ocean shipping industry beyond annual appropriations?
I think that we showed there was no diminution last year, and there will be no diminution next year. We will continue to enforce the law and use our authorities to the fullest, but no more. And I'm confident that you will be satisfied.
Well, thank you. We would love to have you back perhaps towards the end of the year or next year to continue to check in on that progress. I see that my time has expired, but we'll yield back.
Thank you.
Gentlelady yields. Chair recognizes Mr. Van Drew for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, thank you for being here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The Coast Guard, as you know, and you know all this already, has recently accelerated the removal of navigational aids under ATON modernization plan. 350 buoys are currently slated for removal, as you also know, across the Northeast, with plans to expand this effort as we move along. I support the innovation. I support the Coast Guard. I support all of you, but I'm concerned that we might be moving too quickly and that we at least should have some more local input on this issue. And I'm going to tell you why. We already are seeing some consequences. My district is a coastal district in the state of New Jersey. We're seeing some grounding on shoals, near misses involving commercial and recreational vessels, and increasing uncertainty in waterways that were once considered safe, and now there are some concerns among real people that I talk to that are out in the water. They're not isolated, they really exist, they're happening now, and I think we can prevent them. I think the work you're doing is good, the focus is good, but we have to make sure that we're doing this in a careful and circumspect way. In my district, many of the small mariners, including commercial operators, do not have advanced, believe it or not, electronic navigation systems that the modernization effort assumes, and I think that's something we have to keep in mind as well. And some of them will not have it even into the near future. Even when the systems are available, you've got shifting tides, narrow passages, bad weather, you know the deal. It's no longer just a safety issue, it's also a commerce issue, a commercial issue. If commercial fishing lanes become less predictable, we have more commercial problems. And I guess, the committee included a provision in the Coast Guard Authorization Act, I don't guess, I know we did, to study the effects of removing these buoys, and that's a good thing, and that's going to pass this week on House suspension. Commissioner, until that point, have you been coordinating with the Coast Guard on this initiative? Could you fill us in a little bit on it?
We have not on those issues.
Okay.
But I was 6 years on active duty with the Coast Guard. And I still have, at one point, some of my students were admirals in the highest level. You can be sure that on anything that involves them, we'll work with them.
Good, and that's what I would hope, and I would say the same thing to the Coast
Absolutely.
Guard if we're there too. Sometimes the intention is good, and I think the result will be good, but I think we just have to be a little bit careful as we go about it, make sure,
course.
like everything else we do in government,
course.
make sure we get it right. Thank you for your time.
Thank
I
you.
yield back.
Gentleman yields. Chair recognizes Mr. Garabonu, 5 minutes. I'm working on it.
I'm having one of those mornings, I'm not sure I can pronounce my own name. Garamendi. I think what I'd like to do, if I might, my colleague at the far end of the dais here, Mr. Johnson, is the lead on the Ocean Shipping Reform Act improvement. That is, so if I might yield to Mr. Johnson my time, and then I'll follow up since he is the lead on the new bill.
Well, that is unbelievably gracious. I think I'm next in the queue, John, so if you want to go, I'm just going to spend at least 2 minutes talking about how great you and Commissioner Dye are, so.
I yield to you.
Very good. Well, I am going to note, I'll echo what Mr. Petronas said. I mean, your service to our country, Commissioner, is incredible. I mentioned that when you were in the office the other day. To have the steady hand of somebody who understands this committee, understands these issues, who doesn't cycle out of government because you get some shinier object somewhere, but you stay. President after president trusts you to do this work. It's incredible. And then John Garamendi, I mean, everybody in this town likes to fight. Somehow, John, you and I have figured out how to get the Ocean Shipping Reform Act done, Ocean Shipping Reform Implementation Act, and we've gotten a lot of good things done. So with that, I will yield back to you, sir. Thank you.
Well, you didn't do what I hoped you would do, which is really go through the detail, but you're kind to mention all of the work that's been done. We've actually come a very, very long way in providing the commission with the tools it needs to deal with the reality of the international trade on the oceans. And the new piece of legislation, the Reauthorization Act, which Mr. Johnson is the lead on it this year, is going to further provide the necessary tools and strengthen the existing tools that the FMC needs to deal with a very rapidly changing environment.
Yes.
When we started, the 2022 bill really came about in part because of the pandemic and all of the changes that occurred there. The situation, that is the ocean shipping situation, remains very, very volatile. So the new legislation will provide additional tools. I want to commend the Commission for taking up the 2022 bill and using it to deal with practices that are simply not fair. It took a while to do it. We've had discussions about this in previous hearings. I remember one in California not so long ago, that you were in the process of trying to understand the new law and then implement it in the regulatory processes using the rather difficult but necessary process of putting in place regulations and rules. I want to commend you for having done that. I see your colleague, Commissioner back there, who's interested in having done this piece of work. So we're going to carry forward. The new piece of legislation provides some additional clarity and additional strength to the work you do. Also authorizes a higher level of funding, and that's been talked about back and forth here, $49,200,000. Looks like you're probably going to, if we can hold at $40 million in this environment, we ought to be quiet, take the money and run, and go back to work. But the future is out there. So if we can put in place a authorization of 49 and then ramp it up over the years, to ultimately in 4 years to 57 million, you'll be able to bring back on board the necessary staff and deal with the very rapidly changing. The tariff issues are out there. They're going to have an effect. If you'd like to speak to that, Ms. Dye, I would urge you to do so. Be careful. You don't want to go jump into that snake pit. But
Thank you.
Just the
Thank you.
effect that it may have on you.
I talked and corresponded with several of our major ports recently. The reasons for port congestion are different. I've done now 4 major fact findings during periods of extreme dislocations. The results are always the same.
Well, here's
And
where
so
we're-
it's why I look to encouraging more port processes that are clear and predictable. But the volatility is.
Well, we're going to be in a very volatile situation, certainly for the remainder of this year and perhaps on into next year, and it'll have some significance. Also, the continued consolidation, and as you said earlier, 5 of the 6 biggest are really government-controlled carriers. And so the FMC, the original reform, and then the new Reauthorization Act will provide you with additional tools to deal with that. I know that Mr. Johnson will undoubtedly add to this and provide more clarity along the way. But thank you for your service and your colleague who's there in the
Thank you
front
very
row
much.
to the far, that would be to the far right or the far left, right down the middle. I yield back. Oh, one more, if I might.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank the chairman of the committee and the ranking member of the committee. The Reauthorization Act is your work as well as Mr. Johnson and mine. So thank you, both of you, for your support and for your insight and the development of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Mr. Johnson for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll pick up where Mr. Garamendi left off, which is on the FMC reauthorization. Commissioner, I'm not, number one, thank you to your team for providing technical assistance. So I'm not really talking about the tweaks and the edits they suggested. More big picture, when you reviewed the FMC reauthorization bill, what were your general observations? Did you think we hit the center of the target?
I think so. I think so. I think that we had suggestions. Be glad to sit down and talk with you about those and work anything out. But I don't think we had any extreme changes. And there were things that the FMC had recommended. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
And one of the things, listen, it's not an earth-shattering reauthorization, but all the more reason for Congress, and again, I'll echo what Mr. Garamendi said. Thank you to the leadership of the committee for doing our regular blocking and tackling work. Sometimes we wait so long, we are driven by crisis that we don't take care of the day-to-day, year-to-year maintenance. Reauthorizing solid agencies like FMC in a timely manner is helpful. It's not going to transform the nature of your work, but I would think it provides some additional stability, additional predictability for you, the other two commissioners currently in place, as well as the staff. That, okay, we've got Congress is once again give us an imprimatur that they want our work to continue. So again, not earth-shattering, but Commissioner, I think you probably agree, helpful nonetheless.
Oh, I had a couple of suggestions. The staff had seen some other things, but I think in short order, we can discuss those. I don't see any major problems. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So moving back to OSRA, you had mentioned in your testimony that, of course, that brought the number of complaints up. Your experience with that is causing the commission to enter into a rule promulgation on a more permanent process.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit more about the lessons learned and how that may translate into a new process.
I think the thing that surprised me, pleased me, that with the FMC's involvement, people suddenly decided that they would refund money. Right. So it went much more smoothly than I had anticipated. So the overall, I think the overall revenue doesn't really represent the effectiveness of the approach.
Well, and I'm reminded, Commissioner, when then Chairman Maffei was in my office, before OSRA had passed, he had observed that just the specter of the bill, specter is maybe a more ominous definition than I intend, but clearly it was bipartisan. Clearly Mr. Garamendi and I were engaged in a real lawmaking exercise that we wanted to get done. The writing was on the wall. We were going to get this done. Chair Maffei had mentioned that behavior was already changing in the marketplace.
Yes.
In anticipation of that. And I think it's one good reminder that when y'all, of course, y'all are the day-to-day cops on the beat, and yet Congress, when we're doing good oversight, when we are engaged in making sure that y'all have the tools needed to do your job, we do get a healthier, fairer, and more robust marketplace. What am I getting wrong?
No, I think that you're right. As we just discussed, enforcement's never over, right? And we don't expect it to be. There are always different approaches to color outside the lines. But I'm very pleased with the way things are going. We have, I think I had recommended, in fact, finding 29, that all these companies have compliance officers, people that we can call up immediately And that's working out well. And I think that that's shown some pay dirt too.
So I would close by saying this, Mr. Chairman. This might be the least sexy hearing going on Capitol Hill today. No disrespect to Commissioner Dye.
I hope so.
But it is just responsible management of government. And one of the reasons that I fought to get on this committee is because I knew it would be populated by people like Mr. Larson and Mr. Graves, who'd worked together to get there, even though they're different parties, and Mr. Ezell and Mr. Carbajal, and Mr. Maffei and Ms. Dye, and Mr. Garamendi and Mr. Johnson, people who do not take the same perverse joy in fighting. Instead, they just want an America that works. Thank you for being a part of that solution, Mr. Chairman. I would yield.
Thank
That
you.
was a gentleman yields. That was pretty good there, Mr. Johnson. Thank you. All right. Thank you. The gentleman yields back. Are there any further questions from any members of the subcommittee who have not been recognized? Seeing none, that concludes our hearing today. I would like to thank you, Ms. Dye, for being here today, and that concludes the subcommittee hearing. Stands adjourned.
Thank you very much.